Congratulations, Dan Tony and Kevin Castle. It's going to be a huge success that you guys are bringing this podcast back. And you know the song that we sing when we're doing well, especially when we do well in 2024. We in the money. We in the money. Do 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 do. That's right, everybody. Tune in January 1st, all right? The brand new and up-to-date Don Tony and Kevin Castle podcast show coming back in 2024.
I think what happened to that timekeeper tonight got the greatest missed job by Nakamura ever. You think about it tonight with Nakamura using the mist, the red mist, it simulates blood. I mean, you spit all over the place and you don't wipe it off, and for the rest of the match, it looks like that you have blood in your mouth. Good visual. You don't need any referees with gloves on, and but let's be honest, was that street fight level? Yeah, you use two tables. Yeah, you kind of use the chair a little bit, but it's kind of a weak street fight. I had a fear that it was going to be kind of lame when we saw that 10:21 is when they actually started Shinsuke's music, and by the time the match started, it was like 10:31. So 30 minutes, between Cody's intro and everything else, that might be a little bit too long. You expected kind of a brawl out of the building, and more times than not, they were fighting inside the ring. But not bad, but, for street fight levels, it's not going to be a match we're going to remember anytime soon. I want to welcome everyone to your Raw post-show for January 8th, 2024, excuse me. I am Don Tony. I got to get used to that. Listen, before I go any further, much love and thank you to everybody who sent condolences with what happened Sunday. Awful, awful, awful. I am physically and mentally drained. And if it appears that I am, you can only imagine what my wife is going through. And this is 2 days in a row that I honestly contemplated about doing the show, but I figured, we'll talk a little bit about Raw tonight. I think it was a pretty big Raw with CM Punk returning. Got a couple of news tidbits to share. Definitely want to talk about, a sports media outlet out there that is not wrestling related that thinks they know, they're predicting where WWE Raw is going to end up. Tony Khan also did an interview and once again skated some pretty, obvious questions to ask. And, the more, I know it's very easy to criticize and make fun of Tony Khan, especially when you see him wearing a wig and sunglasses and talking about the accusations, whether they're true or not. Even if the accusations are just people out with a vendetta, Chris Jericho, you put on a wig, take the fucking wig off. I don't care if the president gave you the wig. You take the fucking thing off and say, listen, let's, be serious for a second. I'm literally watching this guy talk about accusation charges, and he's wearing a fucking wig and glasses. You know, if AEW ever fails, that shit's going to be up front and center. But he talked about the future of AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery. And what's interesting about it is nobody's talking about it. I'm kind of fascinated with his answer. And I think the funny thing about Tony Khan, and here's a little trick for everybody out there, a little hint. If you read Tony Khan's statements slow, very slow, you realize within 25% of the sentence that he is skating, playing dodgeball, ducking, just like really trying to avoid the question. And when do people say, Tony, stop with the fucking dodgeball? When we read the answer, if I read it on full speed, you won't think much of it. But when you read it slow, and I'm not exaggerating, you'll be like, wait a minute. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll get into Raw. And by the way, my favorite moment of Raw tonight, and I don't mind going out of place when things are warranted. R-Truth. You knew something special was coming tonight when WWE posts a graphic about something with R-Truth tonight. And listen, Photoshop is a wonderful thing. When you can kind of Photoshop things on babies and people, if you have the right mind, it could be some fun shit. And today, R-Truth, they did a whole video segment, which is kind of a dramatization of R-Truth in a retrospective of being in the Judgment Day. And we see all these video clips. And yeah, I mean, for a lot of us old folk out there, we do remember WWE Judgment Day from God. Was it got to be 20 years ago? Maybe a little less. I don't remember exact date. But then they start, R-Truth is narrating, his history with the Judgment Day. And we're seeing pictures of babies. This is supposed to simulate the Judgment Day. We got R-Truth photoshopped in lots of segments. There is all of the members of Judgment Day holding championships. It says R-Truth, his claim to fame is the 24/7 title. He's holding that. We got Damian Priest winning Money in the Bank. And who remembers R-Truth being right by his side as that went down? What about Rhea Ripley pointing to the sign at WrestleMania? And there's R-Truth hanging out, just right there to witness it. And then, you got the, I don't know where that is from, but that is some funny shit, man. That segment, it was funny. Listen, I'm starting to get Sami Zayn bloodline vibes. Doesn't it feel like they're using the template for Sami Zayn? Remember when Sami Zayn thought he was bloodline? My dog, I'm bloodline. And then they threw him the shirt. Doesn't it feel like they're doing the same template? You remember a long time ago when the Judgment Day first started getting a lot of TV time once they were no longer with Edge? And we said it felt like WWE was using the bloodline template for the Judgment Day. Now it feels like they're doing it again. Instead of Sami Zayn, they're doing it with R-Truth. I don't mind it. R-Truth is, priceless. Come on. I don't know. I look at the WWE roster. I look at Raw. I look at SmackDown. I look at NXT. You take away R-Truth, the closest you could get to be kind of like a lovable comedy guy is Tozawa. And I don't think Tozawa would ever be on that level of, how people feel about R-Truth after all of these years. So once R-Truth is gone, as far as an in-ring competitor, that's going to be a void. And yes, I know what some people are going to say, oh, DT, that's comedy. That's not wrestling. That's not matches. Wrestling could be everything. That's why there's so many different promotions, so many different styles. You got different characters. You see some promotions emphasize, a style of wrestling more than others. You pick and choose. What I like may not be what you like. And what you like may be something that I don't like. So I don't mind R-Truth with this. My only problem with it, and I'm just being straight up about this, when The Miz beats Jaden McDonough tonight, and, R-Truth is out there, and we get a little bit of comedy, like during the match with him and Dominic Mysterio. And after the match is over, the Miz has his hand held up high by R-Truth. Here's a little bit of comedy. Earlier, R-Truth still wearing his name on the Judgment Day shirt. Okay, it's lighthearted comedy. But when you see segment afterwards where you have Finn Balor and Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley in the back, and they're pretty much saying, like, whose side is R-Truth on? Huh? The fuck does that even mean? Whose side is he on? R-Truth is not a friend of the Judgment Day. And them playing off, they come off as goofs with stuff like that. And it's not their fault, obviously. This is creative. But, you got to kind of draw the line. They got to, instead of doing that, the Judgment Day, like, this guy, he's a pain in the ass. But instead trying to feed that narrative, like, whose side is he on? What does that even mean? Now you almost feel like, in order to go further with that aspect of the storyline, the Judgment Day is going to tease R-Truth. Hey, here's the shirt. And maybe R-Truth's name really is imprinted on it. And R-Truth thinks he's in the Judgment Day, and they send R-Truth to do all the dirty work. R-Truth is taking the beatings. R-Truth is doing everything that the Judgment Day is telling them to do. Now, do you want R-Truth to do heel things? No. Yeah, that's where you have R-Truth kind of screw up. And there you get a little bit of comedy. Listen, I'm just trying to take a little bit of chicken shit with this storyline and turn it into chicken salad. I am fine with R-Truth doing a little bit of stuff on TV. I think we forget how long he was off TV. He was off TV for quite some time. And this is where you use R-Truth best. I don't think anybody out there truly wants to see a 4-star match with R-Truth against anybody. At this point, I don't think anybody wants that. People just smile. And that's what R-Truth's job is to do, is to make people smile. That's it. That's it. I mean, it's easier said than done. Just because that's your job doesn't mean you could execute it great. And R-Truth does it. So I'm fine with R-Truth still, acting the way he is. They got to be a little bit more careful with the Judgment Day not coming off as ignorant goofs, because they're not. So, all right. Yeah, a few people kind of agree with what I'm saying about the comparison to Sami Zayn. I think as time goes by, it's getting more and more apparent that there's definitely comparisons to Sami Zayn. And, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes from here. Now, before we get into the rest of Raw tonight, and this episode absolutely positively, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to be a little bit shorter than usual just for this week, because just the last 2 days have been awful, and I appreciate, again, all of your support. I don't like to bring stuff like that on shows, but, we're all family here. And not only that, we all deal with real life shit. And I always try to be real on the shows, straight up. There's a lot of people that will leave that aspect of their personal life out of everything. But maybe I could help someone else, because people have helped me over the years. I got to tell you all one thing very quickly. One thing very quickly. And I'll put the picture of the dog one more time on the screen. I'm a little bit more composed today. That I took that picture like 5 days ago. And, she died on Sunday. Do you know today the doorbell rang and it was roses, a vase with roses, condolences to my wife. Do you know who sent the roses? Chewy. Any of you ever heard of Chewy? that does like dog food and dog supplies. I never knew that they did this. I looked on the computer today and I was blown away. When you are a regular customer of Chewy, especially if you have subscription for food, if you let them know that your pet passed away, they send you flowers. And they sent roses to my wife today. I mean, in a little comedic sense, my wife is like, Chewy sent me roses. You didn't even send me roses. I'm getting her something a little bit more special. I'm getting her a little pendant with her dog engraved on it, picture, so she doesn't know yet. She doesn't watch the show, so she probably won't find out. But, man, props to Chewy, man. Seriously, never knew that they did that. Kind of shocked, but that was beautiful. So, I don't know why Sinister's saying rest in peace, Chewy. Chewy is a dog food company, dog supplies. They sent roses to my wife because of the passing of my wife's dog. Chewy is not dead. Chewy is a company and very, very thoughtful of what they did. Listen, if you don't own a pet, I don't blame you if you don't know who Chewy is. So, all right. Not much in the wrestling news department today because we covered a lot of news on Saturday. Covered a little yesterday in the sit-down discussion. And as you saw at the beginning of the show, don't forget, 3 weeks from today, the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show returns. This Saturday, I will post the links, how you could tune in live. And then that gives everybody 2 weeks to set up, sign up, and get everything ready. I think should take you 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So I don't think anybody needs 2 weeks, but obviously we got to get the word out there because not everybody tunes into everything that I do. But I think 2 weeks time is more than enough. I'll be posting a video announcement this weekend for channel members because they're going to get a little bit more. It's only fair. I would have done it this weekend, but obviously what happened kind of like threw that in a little disarray. The biggest news that I personally think I could share with you today, and I could be way off on this. I don't think I am. This has to do with Charlotte Flair. Okay, Charlotte Flair was only a month ago. WWE reported in that match with Asuka, she tore her ACL, tore her MCL, and tore her meniscus. If you do research, 9 months to a year. And that leans more to a year because a regular human that might at most run on a treadmill or jog, that's 9-month recovery. When you're doing moonsaults off the top of the rope and you're doing kicks to the head and you're jumping and doing all the shit that Charlotte Flair does, you have to have a little bit of extra strength. So that could be up to a year. Now, if you follow my shows, you knew already that Charlotte Flair and Andrade, they were waiting until after Christmas for her to get, whatever procedure she was going to get done for her leg. They didn't want her to spend the holidays in a bed. So she had the procedure done. But in case you haven't seen it, she posted 2 videos today. And to me, looking at these videos, I ain't no doctor, but I kind of, I tore, my arm and my labrum and my bicep up. And I know, after getting surgery for at least a week or two, I couldn't even bathe it. You're telling me that in less than 2 weeks after Charlotte Flair has surgery, now you think about staples, you think about stitches, you think about sutures, that takes time. The skin has got to kind of heal and tighten and, so you don't rip the shit open again. I want to show you quickly 2 videos that Charlotte Flair posted today. Now, for audio only, I'll narrate it. It's not even a minute. I think these videos are very telling. No, I am not accusing Charlotte Flair of lying about anything because Charlotte Flair never said anything public. She thanked everybody for the support and the well wishes, but she never went public and said, I tore this, I tore that, I tore this. WWE's the one that said that. But this was Charlotte Flair earlier today. Now, she's seen at rehab, Collier's. This is legit. Now, you look at this, okay? You look at this. She's on a table lifting her leg up in the air, and they're doing the TENS machine along with it. So they're having the muscles, contract and expand. Now here's a part of the video where she's actually standing on both of her legs, putting weight bearing on the knee. And, not full weight, but you're telling me, honestly, if you tore your ACL, you tore your MCL, you tore your meniscus, and you get a surgery in less than 2 weeks ago, you honestly think, I don't care if you're John Cena, you honestly think that you would be at this stage? You would be at this stage 2 months, maybe 3 months. I mean, bending it, putting weight on it, using a TENS machine. Listen, I am in no way, shape, or form saying that Charlotte Flair didn't get seriously injured. She absolutely did. That injury was brutal, and I wish her nothing but a speedy recovery. But this is good news, in my opinion. You look at these videos and you see what she is doing. Does that seem like someone who's going to be out of action 9 months to a year? In my opinion, I will bet the ranch. I don't have a ranch, but I bet the ranch by June, she's back on TV. By June, at the latest. Remember June. I think by June, maybe even sooner than that, Charlotte Flair will be back. There is no way. There's just no way. When you actually look online and you see not even 2 weeks. Today's only the 8th of January. No. And this is great news. And this also goes to show you, WWE has done this in the past, not just with John Cena and others. They give you this, timetable, and then the person comes back way sooner because you don't expect it. It's a surprise. And then it makes the perception that that person worked out and was so dedicated and committed to come back as quickly as they could that, it's, this is awesome. That's the perception. So I don't believe Charlotte Flair's injury was as serious as what was told to us. But again, in no way am I saying that Charlotte Flair's a liar. She never said anything. But I'm glad if this was not as severe as how it was portrayed. This is good news. One other thing I wanted to show you, because I kind of felt bad for Raquel Rodriguez, because, she's suffering from MCAS. And if you read 99% of the wrestling news sites, they didn't even bother Googling to see what MCAS is. There's most websites still haven't even told you about, how it's a problem with your immune system. It could affect your organs, your respiratory conditions. It could affect your skin, and she is going through this. And her body, especially if you ever dealt with eczema or rosacea or stuff like that. I'm not saying that she has that, but what happens with stuff like eczema? Your body makes too many, I don't know if it's white blood cells or it makes too many cells, and your body can't keep up with it, and that's why you end up with rashes and stuff. She posted a video today of her dealing with MCAS, and no, she did not hang out in the tanning salon. Look at her face. Look at her shoulders. She's being treated. There is no cure for this. All you could do is treat it and get it in check. But it looks like it's more of an immune issue with, and it's affecting her skin. The inflammation. There's a lot of pain with that as well. I had a friend of mine who dealt with MCAS a few years ago, and it was not fun, for him. And I don't even know the extent of it. But, she looks like she is doing better. And we hope that Raquel Rodriguez gets back to TV as quickly as she can. Before we talk about Raw, definitely want to talk about CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. A few other things that went down. I want to briefly just talk to you about one other news tidbit for today. This has to do with AEW, their future with TV, and WWE as well. Now, the WWE aspect of it, the website that is reporting this, well, I shouldn't even say it's reporting it. As I wrote in the synopsis, it's a prediction. The Sports Business Journal, they've been around since, I think, 1998 or 1999. You don't, put it this way, you don't hear about them much, which is a good thing because they don't clickbait. They don't, exaggerate. Yes, they make predictions. We all make predictions and not all of them become accurate. But, there's a journalist there by the name of, what's his name? I got it right here. John Ourand, Ourand. He actually has a pretty good track record. And he's been in the journalist world for about 15 years. This is not a wrestling reporter. This is somebody in the sports business world. And he made a whole bunch of predictions about TNT, the rebranding Warner Brothers Discovery, and a few other things. Now, I want to get into the Tony Khan part second, because after I talk about Tony Khan's comments, I'm going to make a prediction, and I think the prediction is going to shock a lot of people out there. I'll probably end up being right, but not because of being smart or anything like that. I'll tell you why. And it kind of intertwines with this guy's prediction. First of all, when it comes to WWE, this guy believes that WWE will end up having Raw on Amazon Prime. And if you go to his predictions for 2024, he thinks that Amazon will get the rights to Monday Night Raw. They will keep it on Monday nights. It'll give them another night of live programming on Prime Video. Now, if you go, and this is why I think this guy's prediction may be a lot stronger than you think. Amazon wants to have strong live programming every day of the week. I'm not saying that they don't have live programming every day of the week. They want strong content, a go-to every night of the week. And Raw would give them that Monday night that they want to fill. Doesn't seem like they're going to get, exclusive for football. So this guy believes that and here's another thing you got to think of too. This increases Prime subscriptions. Prime subscriptions are not cheap. I have a subscription for Prime because I buy most of my stuff from Amazon. So if you have Prime Video already, or that service, this should not cost you any additional monies. But this guy believes, and this is a prediction from Sports Business Journal, that Amazon is the front runner to be on Prime Video. Now, listen, there are a lot of people making a lot of different predictions. And, they just make a prediction. They don't explain why. And the Amazon aspect would be weird. Here's another thing you got to think about. I've talked about this before, but it's really something that most media outlets haven't talked about yet. If WWE were to go to Amazon, no more comparing of ratings. There's no more ratings to compare. Just like when NXT used to be on WWE Network, you could only guess the viewership. And listen, when some people, here's truth, not our truth, but here's some truth. Back in the day, when some places out there, I don't want to single anybody out right now, but some places out there used to report viewership of NXT on the WWE Network, they were lying because there is no public information. There is no way to research that. And they know that Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, who is no longer there, anybody else that worked in production is not going to go public and lie. And unless the financial world, unless WWE wanted to tout numbers, that's different. But if it lands on Amazon, unless Amazon issues a press release, you will no longer have ratings. Same thing for AEW. If AEW ends up on a subscription service, if AEW were to go to Fight, If AEW were to go to Amazon or anywhere else, they go ratings. No more ratings every single week because subscription service, that's not revealed. And anybody that will, and it'll be interesting to see how the media world that really fancies AEW with demos, it would be fascinating to see how they handle that, you know. But let's get to Tony Khan. Let's get into Mr. Khan. And honestly, when Tony Khan says intelligent things, I put a serious picture of Tony Khan on the screen. When I believe that Tony Khan is just skating, dodging, and gets away with it, then we put a little bit more of a goofy picture up on the screen. Tony Khan was on a podcast called Going Ringside. Scott Johnson. I know some of you know who Scott Johnson is. Scott Johnson is not a bad person. He's not a bad guy. Scott Johnson knows, just like Busted Open and a lot of other, and I'm not saying those shows stink, but they know that you kind of got to like play footsie, you know, or fondle or kiss ass if you want to get a second interview, a third interview, a weekly interview. So this is why, listen, these people are not that stupid, my friends. They know that Tony Khan is skating, ducking a question. They know that he's giving inaccurate information. And, you know, when a sixth grader could come up with a rhetorical question, you know, that tells you that, you know, there's a reason why these people never ask really strong, intelligent, point, direct, even follow-up questions. He was asked, what is the status of AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery's talks about a new TV deal? Now, if you followed my recent shows, I question, why are we not hearing that AEW is not negotiating with Warner Brothers, with Amazon or with Paramount or whoever you want to fill in the blank with? It seems the perception to me leading into today is that Tony Khan is begging, hoping, praying that Warner Brothers Discovery picks them up. And I almost feel, and there's a lot of people that agree with me on this, that if Tony Khan, I think Tony Khan's fear, and I say this sincerely, I think Tony Khan's fear is that if Warner Brothers Discovery finds out that Tony Khan is talking to competitors, that would anger Warner Brothers Discovery. And I think Tony Khan, in order to please Warner Brothers Discovery, he won't even consider negotiating with a competitor. You never hear any other outlet having negotiations about bringing AEW programming to their channel. And this is dangerous on AEW's part, because if Warner Brothers Discovery were to, at the last second, work out a deal and bring Raw to Warner Brothers Discovery, there is no way AEW television stays on WBD. TKO Group stockholders would not accept that. The idea is to get as much money as you possibly can for WWE. They did that whole SEC filing naming all the competitors and who would be classified as a threat. Does anybody in their right mind think investors would be happy that Warner Brothers Discovery has WWE Raw, and at the same time they're advertising a competitor that they may have financial interest as well? Does that even make sense to you? It doesn't. So Tony Khan, the perception for me is that he's just sitting and waiting. And then if Warner Brothers Discovery comes back to him and says, look, you know, we're not going to renew our contract, that is when he will try to find something else. And I think Fight or his own subscription service is what he thinks that he could fall back on. Because do you think, and this is something very important that nobody thinks about, you think of Disney, you think of NBC, ABC, CBS, WB, you think of Peacock, Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery. You think they want to wait until the spring or the summer of 2024 to figure out what their fall lineup is going to be? That's why you have media upfronts last year. That's why you heard networks announcing TV deals 6 months ago What happened to the $1.5 billion deal for 5 years for AEW programming? That was all a lie. Every media outlet that sold that to you lied to you. They lied to you. Warner Brothers Discovery was never negotiating a deal with AEW at that time. So now I go back to Scott Johnson. Now he wants Tony Khan to be back on his podcast in the future. So when he asked Tony Khan about what's going on with Warner Brothers Discovery, this is Tony Khan's answer. Quote, and I give this credit to, I think it was Fightful that wrote this transcript up. Now I'm going to read this slower, not to be funny, but when you read it slower, you realize how bad this sounds for AEW. This is how bad it sounds. Tony Khan said, and I quote, listen to this closely. I think by the end of 2024, we're going to know long-term the home for AEW going forward. Let me stop right there. By the end of 2024, we'll know where AEW is going forward. Duh. If Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't renew them, that says nothing about Warner Brothers Discovery. Let me continue. We're looking at now, it's been 4 years, going on 5 years since we launched on TNT and TBS. And now we do 5 hours of TV every Wednesday on TBS and every Friday and every Saturday on TNT. And it's a great question because I think it affects the entire pro wrestling ecosystem. And it's something we're going to be following very closely. And I can't really say anything except that Warner Brothers Discovery have been great partners and will continue to be great partners through 2024. And very excited to have another great year there. And it's certainly going to be a very exciting contract year for AEW and all the exciting possibilities. And there's a lot to look forward to this year. It's a big year, 2024, for so many reasons. If I say this slow, he said nothing. Nothing in there says he's negotiating with Warner Brothers Discovery. Nothing in there says that he's negotiating for Dynamite at all. Any AEW, nothing. All he says is, we'll be there for another year. Till October. There was nothing said there. It was 9 sentences of nothing. And does Scott Johnson say, are you negotiating a new deal with Warner Brothers Discovery? Does it say anything? No. Now, he then was asked, Tony Khan, about the possibility of WWE signing with Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, take note, up until this point, he was never asked if AEW is negotiating a new deal with Warner Brothers. All they said was, what's going on? And all Tony Khan said is, we're excited to have another year with Warner Brothers Discovery. Never, didn't say nothing else. Now, here's where I think Tony Khan reveals that he's in trouble. And I really mean this. When asked about WWE possibly going to Warner Brothers Discovery, this is Tony Khan's answer, and I quote, Scott, it's part of sports. Sports. I mean, I think everybody discusses contracts and free agency and things of that nature. You know, I think everybody's aware that everybody's going to be talking to everybody in media this coming year. This guy's acting like the media upfronts didn't happen last year. He's comparing WWE to an athlete. Now you understand the internet media wrestling darlings that said 5-year, $1.4 billion deal. They announced it like it was a basketball player signing a contract. They made it sound like it was the TV version of Shohei Ohtani or whoever you want to put in that miss, Yakamura, whatever his name is. Now you see where they get the contract that sounds like an athlete. Tony Khan is saying the same exact thing here. He's comparing WWE to a free agent negotiating with different teams. If WWE is negotiating with different networks, why isn't AEW? Tony Khan never says that he is negotiating with other networks for AEW programming. And do you think Scott Johnson asks a follow-up question? Are you negotiating? WWE is negotiating with all different media outlets. Is AEW doing the same? It's sports, isn't it? Would a free agent just sit back and say, I hope the Yankees offer me a new deal. I hope the Mets offer me a new deal. This guy is not negotiating with other networks out there because he thinks it'll piss off Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, my prediction is that Warner Brothers Discovery does pick up AEW once again. I believe what will happen is because AEW is not a publicly traded company, they may not get into the specifics as far as revenue, with sources, percentage, because there's a lot of buzz that Warner Brothers Discovery owns a stake of AEW. I think WWE does not go to Warner Brothers Discovery. I think, and if you remember my analogy from 2 weeks ago, it's like a guy that asks a girl to go to the prom, and the girl says, let me get back to you. And the guy's waiting and waiting and waiting. But meanwhile, the girl is asking a whole bunch of other people to the prom. And if she can't get anybody else to go with her, then she'll go back to that person and say, yeah, I'll go with you to the prom. I think Tony Khan is that guy. And Warner Brothers Discovery is that girl. And I think the minute WWE announces a deal with somebody outside of Warner Brothers Discovery, that's why Warner Brothers Discovery will sign him back. You know why else? Here's where this guy that I talked about earlier from Sports Business Journal comes in. He believes that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to rebrand TNT to TNT Sports. They're going to really focus more on the sports aspect of it. So if TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, is really trying to focus on the sports aspect of programming, you want pro wrestling on there. Warner Brothers Discovery wants wrestling. There's not many choices out there. It'd be pretty fascinating imagine if Scott D'Amore announced that the big signing, they think is the biggest signing ever, is not Mauro Ranallo, not Mercedes Moné, but Warner Brothers Discovery. Wouldn't that be something? Imagine if TNA revealed that they're coming to Warner Brothers Discovery in October. Oh, could you imagine Tony Khan at that point? I think he would walk around with the wig and the sunglasses 24/7. But no, I really believe that WWE will not go to Warner Brothers Discovery. I think they will ultimately sign a deal, maybe not necessarily Amazon, but they'll sign a deal somewhere else. And the minute WWE is off the table, Warner Brothers Discovery will offer a low-end deal for AEW, and Tony Khan will take it. Even if it's same money, I think Tony Khan will take it. And I personally think, AEW haters will laugh, but I think AEW diehards and supporters will say, hey, we're still on TNT, we're still on TBS. Listen, if AEW has to move to a different network, bye-bye TNT title, bye-bye TBS title. Why would you keep those titles? Those titles were done to cater to Warner Brothers Discovery. You don't keep those title lineages if you go on a different network entirely. So, all right, that's the news aspect of it. Oh, here's another little tidbit. Jackie Redmond. I thought this was funny. Jackie Redmond, a lot of you know she's big in sports too. She's WWE, personality. She actually debuted a show on the NHL YouTube channel called the Jackie Redmond Show. No, she's not leaving WWE, but she now debuted an NHL hockey show called the Jackie Redmond Show. Who's her first guest? You think a hockey player, right? Her first guest is CM Punk. Now, CM Punk is huge with the Chicago Blackhawks, so you know they'll be talking some hockey. But I thought that was kind of funny. Her first guest is not even a hockey player, but you might want to go check it out. I like her work, and she's very, very knowledgeable in sports. So she's not, doing it just, to be eye candy. So, all right, let's talk about Raw tonight. Before I mention the opening, which was Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, maybe I should leave and come back in 9 years. Before we even talk about that, I got to say something that I don't want to forget to say, and it's not popular, and honestly, I don't care. I'm just telling you my honest opinion about something. It has to do with DIY. A lot of you know I'm a big fan of Johnny Gargano. I like Tommaso Ciampa as well. Has he ever been one of my big favorites in NXT? No. Johnny Gargano's always been one of my favorites in NXT. But I think DIY has a serious fucking problem right now. And that's why I think they're incorporating the Creed brothers with them a little bit, Alpha Academy a little bit, The Miz a little bit, R-Truth a little bit. I watched tonight Tommaso Ciampa cut this passionate promo in the back. And yes, he cut one of those promos like this when he fought Gunther not too long ago. But this guy in Portland cut this passionate promo in the back with Johnny Gargano, predicting that they will be, in the future, WWE Tag Team Champions. It got almost no reaction. And then you hear, we are, no reaction. They came out, no reaction. They got a little reaction as the match went on because they don't like Finn Balor. They don't like Damian Priest. They don't like the Judgment Day all that much. So by default, you're going to root for the good guys. DIY has some serious problems right now. I don't know how you fix them because, when they brought Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, Scott Steiner just got interviewed. And who would have ever thought I could bring up Scott Steiner in this conversation? But Scott Steiner was just interviewed a day or two ago about Braun Breaker. And he was asked, how do you feel that Braun Breaker has not been called up yet? Scott Steiner said one of the most intelligent things, and there's no mathematics involved. He said one of the most intelligent things that I think each and every one of you should remember going forward. Whenever you hear somebody say, oh my God, bring that person to the main roster, bring that person to Raw, bring that person to SmackDown. The next time you see a petition, bring Indy Hartwell, she deserves better. Anytime you see anybody doing that, I want you to think about what Scott Steiner said about Braun Breaker. When he was asked why Braun Breaker is not on the main roster, you know what he said? He'd rather see Braun Breaker go to the main roster with a plan than no plan at all. And I know that sounds like logical, but they brought Indy Hartwell to the main roster. They brought Candice LeRae to the main roster. They brought others to the main roster with no plan whatsoever. The biggest plan that people thought was, oh my God, the way. Oh, Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell, they'll reunite. What do you think they're going to do? Live sex celebration? Or better yet, live Chuck E. Cheese celebration? There was no plan. You don't want someone brought to the main roster with no plan. Johnny Gargano, as much as I am a big supporter of him and I love his attitude, I love what he does outside of wrestling, how he surprises fans, but it feels like WWE had no plan bringing him to the main roster. It's almost like Triple H rewarded some people because they were dedicated in NXT, and their reward was, we're bringing you to the main roster. We're going to pay you main roster money. We don't know what we're going to do yet. Oh, excuse me. We don't know what we're going to do yet, but we're going to bring you to the main roster. We'll give you a shot. Let's see what happens. For everybody that said, oh my God, he's doing an amazing job with Dragon Lee. I look at Cameron Grimes, I look at Dexter Lumis, I look at Xia Li, I look at Indy Hartwell, I look at Candice LeRae, I look at Nikki Cross, and it just goes on and on and on. Now they're playing damage control with Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, and they're repairable because they could work great. But you see DIY right now. Go back and watch tonight when Ciampa cut that promo. I mean, it's like the wrestling equivalent to the Rocky theme. If anybody that's old like me, back in the 80s and the 90s, you could be in a library, you could be in a supermarket, you could be in a gym, you could be in a bowling alley, you could be walking down the street. And if you hear and then you hear gonna fly, and you like suddenly you want to run miles. Suddenly you just want to pump iron and you're like, why am I even doing this? Every time you heard that song, people just started wanting to work out and just fucking go crazy. You know, Tommaso Ciampa, he's so pumped up in the back. He's going to be, and then no reaction whatsoever. No reaction whatsoever. WWE's got a big problem with DIY. You'll see a few people on social media that'll just do heart emojis, or they'll do better. They'll write in capital letters, fucking DIY, fucking future tag team champions, fuck yeah. And realize that's probably 85 out of 10,000 people. I'd love to see them get over. But as of right now, they got a really big problem with DIY. What happened to the Creed brothers? They got their knob wet. They broke their cherry. They had an amazing match with the Judgment Day. You know, nothing. It's nothing. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Raw. Drew McIntyre opened up the show today. And Drew McIntyre, we think that he might be leaving. Maybe Seth and Sammy were right. Maybe the person holding back Drew McIntyre is Drew McIntyre himself. And he's not happy. He screwed up himself last week against Seth Rollins. He is angry at Damian Priest for attempting to cash in during his match. You stupid idiot. I sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, you idiot. What is your name? And no, that's Velveteen Dream. What is your name and what school did you go to? It's like what happened. That's how you cross Arnold Schwarzenegger with Velveteen Dream. Isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger like, who is your daddy and what does he do? Velveteen Dream would be like, I am your daddy and where will you be? So anyway, Drew McIntyre is out there. He's angry at himself. He's angry at Damian Priest for getting involved. And he says, maybe I should take a page from CM Punk's book. Maybe I'll leave for 9 months. 9 years. 9 months to have a baby. Maybe I'll leave in 9 years and come back to a hero's welcome. CM Punk's music hits. CM Punk comes out there. Drew McIntyre is not impressed. He's hanging out on the apron. CM Punk hits the ring, and CM Punk is shouting out the crowd. Big pop for CM Punk. We're in Piper Country, Portland, Oregon. And he's disappointed that Drew McIntyre did not wear a kilt. They're in Piper Country. And CM Punk says, you know, he's known for talking. He's gotten his mouth into trouble. But is Drew McIntyre known for talking? And CM Punk says, since you mentioned my name, I came out here. If you have anything to say it to my face. And the crowd is chanting CM Punk, CM Punk. And then Drew McIntyre grabs the mic. And he's like, congratulations. A month has gone by and you're still here. I know the real CM Punk. I remember when you were champion, you called yourself a locker room leader. Back then, I needed a leader. I was in a dark place. I have it now. I'm fine now. I didn't have it then. My career was in a tailspin, and I needed a leader to tell me everything was okay. I went to Randy Orton, but Randy Orton couldn't help me because he had his own demons. CM Punk, you're straight edge. You don't have any demons. You are a demon. And then CM Punk, is looking at him. And Drew McIntyre is like, after I left and came back. I am now your leader. He's telling CM Punk, I am now your leader, kid. And with all due respect, my friends, I look at the age of CM Punk. I look at the age of Drew McIntyre. I think back to when CM Punk debuted in 2005, and Drew McIntyre was the chosen one. And Drew McIntyre's like, I am your leader, kid. I'm like, what the who fucking gave him that line? It's like, it didn't even make sense. And a minute ago, Drew McIntyre is like, maybe I should leave. I don't know what to do about Drew McIntyre. Maybe Drew McIntyre is hurting Drew McIntyre. I'll go away. Next thing we know, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble, and I'm going to eliminate you, and I'm going to go on and win the WWE Championship, and I'm going to do this time for me instead of what I did for the world, because we were in a bad place with COVID. So I was the COVID champion. He didn't say that, but we coined him the COVID champion back in the day. But now Drew McIntyre is going on a little bit of a rant, and it's this time that CM Punk is hanging out on the ropes. And CM Punk grabs the mic, and CM Punk is like, I called myself many things, but I never called myself a locker room leader. I leaded by example. And then CM Punk says, I am not the demon. I am Satan himself. And I didn't need no fucking devil's mask to do it. No, he didn't say that. Punk says, hey, you want to be straight edge? Shave your head. Join the straight edge society right now. And then CM Punk reminds Drew McIntyre about winning the Royal Rumble, main eventing WrestleMania. And then CM Punk says, I'm a real nice guy until it's time not to be. I'm not here to be a nice guy. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to win the Royal Rumble and main event WrestleMania. And then Drew McIntyre with more Fed lines. I will exercise you at the Royal Rumble. I will eliminate you. I will win the title again. And this time I will do it for me. And CM Punk says, you know what? It's getting spicy in here. I was thinking of that dumb hip hop song. It's getting hot in here. They take off all our clothes. It's getting spicy in here. So I'm going to be the better man, and I'm going to walk out of this ring. But Seth Rollins isn't going to stop me. Cody Rhodes is not going to stop me. Drew McIntyre is not going to stop me. He's going to win the Royal Rumble. In fact, just for Drew McIntyre, CM Punk is going to eliminate Drew last. And that's how the segment ended. So Drew McIntyre is now in the Royal Rumble, and CM Punk says he will finish Drew last. Take note that you have once again not heard say from the CM Punk's mouth, I will become World Heavyweight Champion. I think we're the only show that has pointed that out. This is now 5 times that CM Punk has cut a promo and said, I will win the Royal Rumble. I will face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I will main event WrestleMania. You don't hear CM Punk say, I will become World Heavyweight Champion. 5 times now. All right. So now we go to matches. Tommaso Ciampa cutting that passionate promo. Unfortunately, did not get much of a reaction. Match was good while it lasted. Funny thing is, I think the Miz's match might have been the longest one of the night, outside of the main event street fight, of course. But Ciampa is fighting Finn Balor. Finn Balor attempts a coup de grace. Ciampa applies a crucifix pin for a 2 count. Ciampa goes to set up for his finisher, and here comes Damian Priest trying to interfere in the match. Ciampa hits him with a forearm. Johnny Gargano gets involved with Damian Priest. Damian Priest gets the upper hand, is about to powerbomb Gargano on a table, and the crowd was really into it, if you heard it. Crowd popped. They wanted to see Gargano go through a table. Not that it was Gargano. They just wanted to see somebody go through a table. But Ciampa stops him, and when Ciampa re-enters the ring, Balor hits him with a vertical suplex. But as you will see right here, Ciampa turned it into a pin. So Tommaso Ciampa defeats Finn Balor, given the further perception that DIY could possibly become tag team champions. I expect in the very near future we will see a backstage segment with the Creed brothers and DIY and each one feels that they are deserving to become or to get a rematch for the championships because of what they have done. And then maybe we'll see DIY and the Creed brothers going at it once again. There's a little diversion in the meantime. So the next match that we get, and I know I didn't get to Becky or Nia Jax yet, but I want to get this out of the way. Ludwig Keiser versus Kofi Kingston in the Bronson Reed Ivar match. The same template once again. We get a good back and forth match, but because they want to add a little bit of heat to the Royal Rumble match, even though Kofi is not officially entered and neither is Ludwig Keiser, but to add a little bit of extra heat. Later on, Ludwig Keiser, talking to Jackie Redmond in the back, said that since Kofi took out Vinci with his head, tonight Keiser took out Kofi with his head. You would have thought if Keiser was that angry, you would not end up with a dumb double count out victory by both wrestlers. Double count out, crowd is annoyed, let them fight. So we get kind of Ivar and Bronson Reed once again. Kofi dives outside the ring, they start brawling, and then we get just an outright annihilation by Ludwig Keiser. Ludwig Keiser takes one of the chairs. If you watch it in slow motion, Kofi is okay, thank God. But he throws the chair right in the face of Kofi Kingston, knocks his ass out. Look great on TV. Crowd is chanting, holy shit, holy shit. We have WWE officials and trainers out there tending to Kofi, trying to keep Ludwig Keiser back. Ludwig goes back in the ring. And then when Mr. Bean, that is the referee, I call him Mr. Bean, when Mr. Bean and everybody else is not looking, Ludwig Keiser runs around the opposite side of the ring. And with Kofi, who just decided to keep his head hanging over the ring steps for about 45 seconds, Ludwig Keiser goes and nails him with a fucking drop kick to his head, right into the guardrail. Great visual. I mean, when you see it on full speed, that shit looked nice, man. And Ludwig Keiser takes out Kofi Kingston. And then after the match was, officially done at ringside, Ludwig Keiser, I'm the only one still here from Imperium. So he got a little revenge on Kofi Kingston after what happened to Giovanni Vinci last week. WWE said that Giovanni Vinci will be out of action for several weeks. I wonder if they did that just to make an excuse why he's not in the Royal Rumble. I think Vinci will be in the Royal Rumble because you got to fill 40 spots. There's going to be a couple of surprises, obviously, but Vinci, may not be one unless we see Vinci and Keiser go at it a little bit during the Royal Rumble match. But this was good. I mean, I didn't like the double countout decision. Kind of seems like that is a cop-out that WWE does more than you realize. But the aftermatch antics, let me put it this way. If we're being real for a second, kind of like what happened with Keiser and Kofi post-match is kind of what we would have wanted with Cody versus Nakamura in the main event. Not just standing in the ring, methodical, going slow, kick, daga. It's like, I'm just obsessed with Shinsuke with the word daga now. Remember when I used to say matarazzo all the time? I used to say goof all the time. Every time I see a Shinsuke promo now, I want to take a shot every time I hear him say the word daga, which means butt in Japan. If you ever watch a Shinsuke promo, there's 1,000 butts in it. He'll say, Cody, yakatabata, daga. Cody, daga. Cody, daga. So, Becky Lynch is in the back with Jackie Redmond. She doesn't think her feud with Nia Jax is over. She thinks it's just getting started. Becky Lynch proclaims herself in the Royal Rumble match as well. Shortly after this, Nia Jax is summoned to the ring by Michael Cole. And Michael Cole, before Nia Jax could really say anything, she proclaims being in the Royal Rumble. And before she really could say anything, she wants to challenge Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's music hits. And Nia's got this puss look on her face, like she's like, my lip smells like shit. Rhea Ripley comes out. Rhea Ripley with a monster pop. The crowd wants Rhea Ripley to be a badass baby face. I am very happy that tonight Rhea Ripley did not diss the crowd. That is a Judgment Day formula they've been doing way too long. If the crowd wants to get behind someone, she don't have to soak in the accolades, but she doesn't need to put them down at the same time. But Rhea Ripley comes out there, and Rhea Ripley gets right in Nia Jax's face. And Rhea Ripley kind of embarrassing Nia Jax. Rhea Ripley says, hey, you beat Becky Lynch last week. But guess what? I'm not Becky Lynch. I'm Rhea Bloody Ripley. And Rhea Ripley says, you know what? I hope you win the Royal Rumble match. And Rhea Ripley reminds Nia Jax that it was her last year that eliminated Nia Jax from the Royal Rumble match. And Nia Jax is just, and the funny thing about it was after Rhea Ripley was dissing Nia Jax, the minute Nia Jax started talking, I'm a big supporter of Nia Jax. When she talked, it kind of put all the air out of the balloon. It's almost like the, female chubbier version of Dominic Mysterio. Like you almost want to turn that volume up by the crowd boos. But Nia Jax, hey, she wants to face, she's going to choose Rhea Ripley if she wins the Royal Rumble. And Rhea Ripley says, hey, if you happen to win the Royal Rumble, it's best to keep your name out of my mouth. Pretty short, pretty sweet. And the crowd completely behind. And Nia Jax with a little dig that Rhea Ripley is afraid to face her one-on-one. It makes you wonder why we haven't had that match yet. Yes, they're both heels, but, I personally think Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax would be a lot better than people expect. But, nice little segment there. When we get into the updated lineup for Royal Rumble, we could give you the updated participants. Not many people have been announced, but, it makes it interesting who's going to be the final four in each match. I think for the men's side, we kind of have a good idea who the final four. I think Sami Zayn might be back next week. I think Sami Zayn may be back on WWE television next week, even though he hasn't been announced yet. So, okay. Women's Tag Team Championship match. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, they retain their belts, defeating Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Once again, Chelsea Green not getting that intro, just getting. Now, if you notice, they announced, Samantha Irvin announces Chelsea Green first. She says, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. In the past, it was Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. But once again, she does the plain intro. And this was a WWE decision. Because if you hear Samantha Irvin towards Maxine Dupree, even today, she still announces Maxine Dupree like before. She's like, coming into the ring by Akira Tozawa and Maxine Dupree. So why WWE stopped that? I mean, yeah, we saw lowlights of Chelsea Green's run, Christmas holiday. So it's like she's not getting treated with respect by WWE management. But, the announcing, I don't think really is that big of a deal. I think people got a kick out of it. But the match was better than I think people anticipated, because if you remember the last match was kind of eh. But once again, we get a little bit of, faux pas on behalf of Green and Niven. Piper Niven sets up for a Veda bomb. Katana Chance pulls Kaden Carter outside the ring. Piper Niven didn't even realize that they put Chelsea Green in the place of Kaden Carter. So Piper Niven hits the Veda bomb on her partner. So obviously it's the beginning and the end. Katana Chance hits Piper Niven with a lung blower, and they hit Chelsea Green with the keg stand for the pinfall. So once again, your reigning, defending WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. They'll go celebrate at the club tonight dancing. As I said earlier, The Miz defeats JD McDonough. R-Truth comes down to ringside, gets into a little bit of comedy once again with Dominic Mysterio. Yes, this leads to a match next week. The Miz gets the victory. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the only thing I didn't like about it is the Judgment Day afterwards, whose side is R-Truth on? Miz hit a drop kick on JD McDonough. JD McDonough bounced into Dominic Mysterio, which knocked him, off the ring, and this allowed Miz to hit the skull-crushing finale on JD McDonough. Later on, we find out that we're going to get a tag team match for next week. Could they be setting up the Awesome Truth versus the Judgment Day for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships? Yeah, it kind of feels like they're going in that direction. By the way, something I do have to bring up. Two things. And I am going a little out of place for a reason. First of all, do you remember 3 weeks ago, Adam Pearce was in the back. CM Punk bumped into Kofi. Hey, you're making me crazy. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. You remember who Kofi was with? Chad Gable, Ricochet, Adam Pearce. Does anybody remember when Adam Pearce was talking to Ricochet, Chad Gable, and Kofi Kingston about something related to the Intercontinental Championship? Whatever happened to that? It's been almost a month now. So maybe next week we will hear that revisited. But, if you notice, they had that convo. Nothing has happened since. Something else I want to bring up too. Tonight, we had a fun little match with Ivar beating Otis. Now, Ivar won with the moonsault, but I found it interesting. After Ivar won, Michael Cole said that Ivar impresses again. And if you followed my shows for quite some time now, we've been talking about the Smoke and Mirrors tour by Ivar and Otis. Not Bronson Reed. They have elevated Bronson Reed, and that's also done because Elimination Chamber's in Australia, and that's where Bronson Reed is from, and Bronson Reed is going to get a big high-profile match at the Elimination Chamber. That is set. But we've kind of exposed the smoke and mirrors that WWE's done with Ivar and Otis. And despite what you perceive to be, the smoke and mirrors continues for Ivar and Otis. Let me remind everyone two little statistics. Ivar winning today in his last 16 singles matches. Ivar is 3-13. Ivar's wins were against Kofi Kingston, Akira Tozawa, and now Otis. So when you think that Ivar is getting pushed, this was his only third win in about 6 months plus. Otis, it's even worse. Otis now, in his last 11 matches as a singles competitor, Otis is 1-10. Otis's only win was against Drew Gulak in NXT. I don't know if Otis has won a singles match in 2023. Yes, I know we're in 2024. So when you see this on TV and you have this perception that, somebody's getting a little bit of a push, sometimes you got to do a little digging and then you realize, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. So the big guys, they want to brawl and everything, but at the end of the day, you add their records together, they're 4-24. Does that sound like a push? I don't think so. Seth Rollins comes out there. And, it's interesting that WWE is doing this in an election year. It's interesting they're doing it, especially with stereotypes. Really interesting to see them do this at this point, but they are. And, I have to remind everyone a little something about Jinder Mahal that I think people forgot about. It's only been about 6 years. And no, I'm not talking about the WWE Championship. But Seth Rollins comes out there, he's cutting a promo, and he says, he's had some great moments at WrestleMania, but one thing he has never done going into WrestleMania is bringing a world championship to the show. And he wants to bring that championship to WrestleMania. He wants to bring a title that did not exist a year ago, but Seth Rollins has brought it to become the most important title in the industry. And he says that he's going to continue doing what he always did and be a fighting champion. And he's wondering who his next opponent is going to be. And, he teases WrestleMania. And the fans obviously are chanting CM Punk. And Seth Rollins is like, in your dreams. Again, I'm still not convinced Seth Rollins will be World Heavyweight Champion by the time WrestleMania comes around. That's still 3 months away. That's an awfully long time. But, hey, it's possible. It is very possible. But Seth Rollins, he needs another opponent. So now when you look at the Raw roster, by process of elimination, he doesn't have many people that could challenge him right now. Damian Priest only wants to come out with the briefcase when someone else is facing Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins is interrupted by Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal's music hits, and Seth Rollins has got this funny look on his face. He's like, oh, come on. Are you kidding me? So Jinder Mahal comes out there, and Jinder Mahal starts cutting a promo, and Jinder Mahal says that Seth Rollins, was a champion, is a champion, but Seth Rollins speaks no truth. Seth Rollins likes to sing, and he likes to dance. He has brought no value. And whenever he doesn't get his way, he shows temper tantrums. And Jinder Mahal says, you pride yourself on being a workhorse who offered opportunities. You'll give an opportunity to anybody except for a former world champion like Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal basically wants a championship opportunity. And Seth Rollins, he's getting in Seth Rollins' face, and Seth Rollins is dissing Jinder Mahal. He says, yeah, you're right. You have been overlooked. But that was on purpose. That was not an accident. Everybody's been trying to forget about you. For years, we've been trying to forget about you. And, until last week, when The Rock put his balls in a vice. Seth Rollins, hey, gives him credit for showing up The Rock, after what The Rock did to him last week. And Seth Rollins does not appreciate Jinder Mahal ruining his fun and getting in his face. So Seth Rollins says, here, free shot. Free shot. And Jinder Mahal looks like he's going to back down. Jinder Mahal then tries to nail a few shots. Seth Rollins gets the upper hand. Jinder Mahal gets out of the ring. And now we get the Acme Insta feud next week for the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins will be taking on Jinder Mahal. Now, little history that some of you may have forgotten. First off, you might remember to crown the first ever NXT champion, they had the Gold Rush tournament. And Seth Rollins took on Jinder Mahal. Match was not that great, but, this is obviously very early in Seth Rollins' WWE career. But if I kind of find this picture funny because Seth Rollins, was he paying tribute to Kevin Dunn at the time? Look at Seth Rollins. Look at him. He's doing the Kevin Dunn. He's like, you almost want to give Seth Rollins like a piece of wood to gnaw on. What is that with that smile? What is that? But that's not the memory that I was bringing up earlier with Jinder Mahal. My God, who remembers at a different time, in a different era, everyone, where wrestling was so much more simple? Back in the day, the biggest buzz was about Jinder Mahal's nipples and his gynecomastia. Is that what you call it? Mastia or something like that. Remember when everybody accused Jinder Mahal of being on roids because of his nipples being like swollen and sagging? Oh, for you newer wrestling fans out there, you missed some fun times. It was only 6 years ago that the big topic of conversation. Do you remember that? People, it's still all over YouTube. Just type in Jinder Mahal's nipples, and you will see like the biggest media people out there doing all this analyzation, zooming in, showing scientific examples of why Jinder. Listen, if I show you my nipples right now, you would think that I have gynecomastia or whatever. It's not because of that. It's because of cheeseburgers. But Jinder, 6 years ago, that was the topic of conversation. Jinder Mahal's nipples. Never forget. Never forget. I really wish WWE. Listen, I'd rather buy the Britt Baker black eye busted face shirt. Yeet is no longer censored. Why? You know what this feels like? This feels like WWE did not expect to be able to use the Yeet trademark this quickly and probably printed way too many fucking blurred shirts. Why is this shirt a thing still? Why is this guy still coming out there with a blurred Yeet shirt? It's not funny. It gives me a headache when I see it. And it's not, you could say it. And he says it all the time. Everything out of his mouth is, hey, did you have a good, did you have a good Yeet miss? Happy Yeet year. I'm going to go take a Yeet. Do you want to Yeet me tonight? Well, that kind of, But everything is Yeet out of his mouth, and he's wearing a blurred Yeet shirt. So anyway, he proclaims 2024 he's going to win the singles title, and Bronson Reed comes around. Nah, I don't think so. There's two of your members of the Elimination Chamber match, my friends. You will see both of them in the Elimination Chamber in February. So now we get to wrap up tonight's show. We get the main event. Before we get the main event, they announced next week we're going to get Seth Rollins versus Jinder Mahal for the World Heavyweight Championship. Next week, we're going to get the Awesome Truth taking on Finn Balor and Damian Priest in a non-title match. DIY will be taking on Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. And this match is supposed to be, if DIY wins, it's another step towards a title shot for the World Tag Team Championships. And next week, the Ring General returns, Gunther. Congratulations once again to Gunther on the birth of his son. So he will be back next week. So we get the main event. Cody Rhodes defeats Shinsuke Nakamura in a very watered down street fight. I liked the last 5 minutes of the match. As I said at the beginning of the show, I think the timekeeper took the greatest miss job that anybody's ever taken from Shinsuke Nakamura. And you kind of saw it coming because, the match when it started, it had a little bit of promise. Cody's on the rampway. Shinsuke's on the rampway. They're throwing punches. They're brawling. And we think, they're going to brawl all around the arena. No. They brawl for a little bit. They go into the ring, and we start getting a lot of in-ring work. Singapore Cane was used for a brief moment. Teasing, chairs. Fans are chanting, we want tables. But, for the first 10 minutes, and again, Shinsuke's music hit at 10:21. By the time Cody hit the ring, it was 10:30. Then you get ring introductions. It's like 10:33. And you're saying to yourself, hey, that means we still got 26 minutes of this match. And a street fight, it takes a lot out of you. But this was a very watered down street fight. Do very little. These two guys are supposed to despise each other. Cody was supposed to bring out a different Nakamura. Daga. Cody's supposed to be pissed. He called your dad an inbred, and you're giving him a fucking headlock. You called him an inbred? I'm going to put you in a headlock. That's what I used to hate about wrestling in the 90s. We used to talk about that on the hotline. You see it happen in WCW. Two people cut promos on each other. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to kill your family. And then the first thing they do in the ring is a collar and elbow tie-up. I can't wait to put my hands on you. And they lock up. So the match, very watered down, killing time, gets outside the ring. They're brawling a little bit around the announcer's table, and there's a spot where Cody Rhodes is by the timekeeper, and Cody picks up a chair, and Nakamura is bent over, obviously setting up for the mist. And meanwhile, the camera is just like, it was almost like, you remember our video with fan cam? You know, this was like timekeeper cam. The camera was right behind the timekeeper for about 15 seconds. And I'm like, oh, this poor bastard's going to get something. And sure enough, Cody Rhodes taking his time with the chair. And Cody even says, look out. And he grabs the chair and he's standing there and he's waiting a few seconds. And then this is the only video clip I got for the night. Cody picks up and spits the mist right in the cameraman. Look great. Cameraman sold it better than half the roster that takes mist, men and women's division. But I love the deep red mist because you remember when Shayna Baszler was biting women in the neck, like almost like a vampire, and Shayna Baszler would have blood all over her mouth for the rest of the match? It's a great visual, and Shinsuke spits the mist, and for the rest of the match, all of this is red, and it looks like blood, but it's not blood, obviously. But right after this, Shinsuke grabs the chair, starts chair bashing Cody, and we go to commercial. We came back from the commercial 2.5 minutes later, and Shinsuke had a chair in the ring to Cody. And I'm saying to myself, they didn't do picture-in-picture. And I'm like, was Shinsuke chair bashing him for 2.5 minutes? But we come back from commercial. Shinsuke's in the ring with Cody, still chair bashing him. Cody finally gets the upper hand. And Cody finally obliges the fans, pulls a table out from under the ring, and sets it up inside the ring. And he's brawling with Shinsuke. And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was lame. Shinsuke gets the upper hand, puts Cody on the table, climbs the middle rope, and drops the knees onto Cody. And that table broke. It almost looked like a Fisher-Price toy set. Like you and your kids could play, wrestler, and you could put each other through tables. Like the table, it looked like it broke in slow motion. You ever see like sometimes a table will explode when the weight hits it? It just sounds great, looks like it. This was just like he dove off and his knees like really rested on Cody's chest, and it like gradually just broke to the table. It just looked really weak on TV. But kudos to Shinsuke, who probably realized like, Daga, this sucked, Daga. And he went outside the ring and immediately went for another table. Little distraction. Brings a table in the ring, sets up in the corner, tries it at Kinshasa. Cody Rhodes blocks it. Cody Rhodes ends up landing the Cody Cutter on Shinsuke. And at this point, I look at the clock and it's 10:58. Going on 10:59, and I'm like, damn it, now they got to rush to finish. So what happens? Cody Rhodes, Shinsuke gets a little offense really quick, puts Cody in the corner in front of the table. Shinsuke goes to the opposite side of the corner, runs across, attempts a Kinshasa. Cody gets out of the way. Shinsuke goes headfirst into the table, and Cody with Crossroads. Match over. And I guess this is Cody's last match before the Royal Rumble, because Michael Cole, right before we go off the air, Michael Cole says now Cody is on his way to the Royal Rumble. So it seems like for the next Well, there's only 2 more Raws to the Royal Rumble, but it's almost 3 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, Cody Rhodes will not be wrestling a match. That's how it came off as on TV. And CM Punk has not had a televised match yet. You know, some people think that CM Punk should have a televised match before the Rumble. Hey, the Rumble's in little less than 3 weeks. So we may not get another Cody match before then. We may not get CM Punk in the ring before then. I don't even know if we're going to get Drew McIntyre in a match before then. So, but that's how he went off the air with Raw. You know what? Roderick Howard brings up an excellent comparison. Do you remember when Terry Funk passed away? And SmackDown did a tribute match, the Street Profits versus the Brawling Brutes, and it was supposed to be like a street fight. Like Terry Funk would have loved this match. And there was like 2 spots in the whole match that would have been remotely hardcore. Like if that was a true Terry Funk match, you would have saw those 2 spots 30 seconds in. This match, listen, for the live fans, they enjoyed it. If you're a Cody fan, you enjoyed it. If you're a huge WWE fan, you enjoyed it. But to turn it into a street fight, and the only reason why it became a street fight is because Jackie Redmond went to interview Cody earlier in the night. And before Cody could even say anything, Shinsuke attacks him. Now, if you remember me last week when they announced this match, I said last week, I'm kind of disappointed they didn't do a stipulation. You know, if this is supposed to be like the end of a war between these 2 guys, you know, make a little stipulation, no DQ or something. And I was happy that they turned it into a street fight, but this lacked anger on Cody's part. You know, he didn't come across as a guy, like if somebody said something really horrible about my dad and, you know, like I knew I'd be able to beat the balls out of the person that said it and I'm not going to get in trouble for it. You know, I'm going to be like, you know, this is for my dad. This is for this. You're like, yeah. I mean, it just seemed like Cody was, main eventing Raw. You know, I can't wait to finish the story. Royal Rumble, yay. You know, this didn't feel like deep anger for Shinsuke. I think that's probably part of the problem. So that's it. That was your episode of Raw tonight. You know, not a bad show, but if you missed it, if you read the results, you could go into next week's Raw and you could pretty much lie and say, yeah, I saw Raw last week. There's not much outside of it. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, you know, I think that was designed to put Drew McIntyre in the Royal Rumble. To cover up that Drew McIntyre has been, in my opinion, absolutely misused in a lot of ways since September of 2022. Think about it. Clash at the Castle was on my wedding day. And that's how I always remember it. And I watched half of it, you know, just waiting to get married. And that's 2022, not 2023, 2022. And we're now a year and a half later. And how do you improve Drew McIntyre from here? Do you think he's winning the Royal Rumble? No. Like, where do you go from here? Like, I failed. I'm going to go home. Is it really worth it? No, it's not worth it. I fucked up. Oh, I should come back in 9 years. And CM Punk comes out there, and next thing you know, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. I'm going to exercise you. I'm going to eliminate you. I'm like, what happened to Seth Rollins in the World Heavyweight Championship? Oh, I'm going to win the Rumble and win the championship and become champion for me this time. Not for the world. Not because I was needed. I'm going to do it for me. What happens in less than 3 weeks when Drew McIntyre doesn't win the Royal Rumble? Bobby thinks that Raw moving to Prime is a worst case scenario. I don't think WWE cares if Tony Khan is in a bind. WWE is going to do what's best for WWE and TKO Group Holdings and their investors. They're not going to do it. Put it this way. The stock does not go up because Tony Khan fucked up. TKO Group Holdings stock goes up when WWE does good or the future projections are good. If Tony Khan bombs in the ratings, bombs in ticket sales, nosedives in this, drops this, that doesn't mean that more fans automatically buy WWE stuff. It's what WWE takes in. When WWE does their financial reports, they don't go out there and say, we generated $350 million. We know it's a little bit down than what was expected, but Tony Khan lost $150 million, so we're in a better place. Let me buy WWE stock. It's not how it works. WWE is going to do what's best for WWE. It's like any business. Tune in to me because you like me, not because you hate that person. You want to support something that you support, not because someone else is bad. That's something I learned over the years in anything you do. You always want someone to invest in you because you offer something good, not because someone else offers it bad. Because you don't want to just be chosen because you're the only person left. You don't want to be that guy in 1991 who's in a club at 2:30 in the morning trying to get laid and ends up with the 195-pound fat girl because there's only one girl in the whole club left because everybody went home. Yes, it happened to me. You want to score because, hey, I got it. Not because it was my only choice. I needed something. So, all right. I'm going to jet out of here. We ended up doing 96 minutes. So I'm tired. This was a pretty rough weekend. But, I'm happy to be here with you. Gets my mind off of some, shit. Hopefully I got your mind off of some of, shit that you're going through. And Wednesday, Dynamite is back in Florida. They're calling it Homecoming, I believe, and I believe they're doing some 8-man tag matches to pay tribute to Brody Lee. Any tribute to Brody Lee is a cool thing. It's not being done. Some people are writing tonight, they're using anything, including Brody Lee, to trigger a rating. I'm not going to tune in because they're paying tribute to someone, who perished. I'm going to tune in because I want to watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's any, malicious intentions there. They're going back home. Brody Lee recently, it's the anniversary of his passing. They want to celebrate that. There's nothing wrong with that. So, but enjoy NXT tomorrow. Enjoy Dynamite on Wednesday. For me, my next show will be tomorrow night on Patreon. It'll be a regular Patreon show. And then we have Saturday. We're still doing shows like before, but let me give you a little quick update about DTKC show. This Saturday, absolutely, I will be posting a Discord link. So everybody could tune in live when we start going live on Mondays. That'll give everybody about 2 weeks to get yourselves ready. I will be posting it everywhere. So everywhere you look, you'll see that link. I'm going to record a couple of quick videos for channel members so everybody knows what's going to be added, to each tier. And then, behind the scenes, we're working on a few things. I have someone that's going to be working on the Discord channel this weekend, putting some upgrades in there and changing a little bit of the look. That's why I haven't put the link up yet. When people go there, I want it to be upgraded. So when you go there, it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then here's another thing. For my friends that run the ship over here, like Guardian of Chaos, Austin Nance, OBS Tribal Chief, she kicks ass. If you want to moderate on the Discord, absolutely, you'll have the powers. You got the power. So we'll be working on that as well. But, so that's the agenda for this week. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, post it in the comment section after this show disconnects. You can't obviously post them there while it's live. And big shout out to everybody. Oh, you know what? I wanted to start doing this from now on because, you know, I kind of always kept supporters on YouTube and supporters on Patreon everywhere else. But I think it's the right thing to do, to give a shout out to our made men, you know, those who sit at the table. Very, very select group of people now on our Patreon page that are truly heads of the table. If you don't know what that's about, patreon.com/Don Tony. It's not a money grab. We got 7 years of content there. I think I'm up to like episode 270 of the Patreon show. Kev is like up to episode 200 for his solo shows and like 105 with Trez. So when you figure it out, that's like 400 shows and each one averages 2 hours, you know, plus ad-free episodes of everything that I do. We do monthly contests. Our members at the table, they're the ones that send the questions for our Patreon shows. So I think from now on, I want to shout out these special people. And believe me when I tell you, some of those names that you see there have been on our Patreon since 2017. I even think 2016. That's how far back they go. So much love. And obviously everybody here, you know, if I mentioned everybody's name, the shows here would go on for 4 hours. But I appreciate each and every one of you out there. Thank you as always for supporting what we do. You know, we don't do this simply because we just don't have anything else to do. After all of these years, wrestling's got to be worth it. Your input has to be worth it. Your feedback has to be worth it. Your support has to be worth it. You know, when wrestling doesn't become fun anymore and this doesn't become fun anymore, you know, believe me, I'll find something else to do. What that is, I don't know. And I know what some of you are saying right now. Oh, I know what you could do right now. You could do your wife.
Knock, knock. Who's there? You blew it.
Be well, everybody. Much love. Oh, I was supposed to get in touch with Matt Riddle's camp this weekend about bringing him on. Obviously, with what happened, you know, derailed that. So I will be talking to them this week, and we're going to set something up. I know he said something very, very controversial in the last 24 hours, that he was told he was going to win the 2022 Royal Rumble. We may have to elaborate on that a little bit. So I'm going to talk to him and Misha and see how we want to do this. I think because I wanted it to be different. I don't want to just do a regular interview like everybody else. I want to have a casual convo like the Forbidden Door episodes that I do. Maybe you get to see a little side of him that you may not normally see. And then I think what I'll do is I'll post a thread and give some of you an opportunity to send in questions. It'll be open to everybody. I mean, but we'll select like the best questions, you know, and good, you know, something good. You know, we're not going to be like, you know, try to corner anybody, but I think some of the greatest questions that wrestlers are forced to answer are the ones that you submit. Not me, not a wrestling podcast, but when you submit. So we'll see. We'll see. But that appears to be happening. So I'll update everybody in the near future. We go from there. So be well, everybody. Have a good one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the hosts. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's alright, he's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.